O Lord, may your hand lead us from the unreal to the real, from darkness to light, from death to immortality. May all be happy. May all be peaceful. May all be enlightened and cultured. May all attain perfection. May peace be established in the three bodies of man. May peace be established in the three worlds. May peace be established everywhere. May truth be our religion. May service be our worship. May knowledge be our breath. May world be our family. May yoga and meditation be our way. May our eyes see happy and noble things. May our ears see happy and truthful words. May our tongues be sweet and truthful. May our bodies be divine instruments. May noble thoughts come to us from all corners of the universe. May we never leave God. May God never leave us. Om peace and love. Om peace and health. Om peace and enlightenment. Om. Good morning. I would like to talk to you today about anger. Anger is a very, very powerful emotion. It can be used very effectively, or it can destroy. So let's just take a look at the term anger, or the emotion anger. It is an energy. And if you start thinking about it as an energy, you will have more success working with it. It's an energy. And when you are in low energy, you might use anger to get your energy up. Or you might use anger, which is called righteous anger, to change something, to change a situation. It will give you enough energy to change the situation. This is why anger is associated a great deal with people who are in depression, because when they use anger, they come out of that depression a little bit, and it motivates them to get up and move. Now, since this is an energy form that gives us more energy, it can also become a habit. If you find that when you are angry you get things done, then you can create a habit. Now let's look at what causes us to be angry and what types of anger they are. In my personal opinion, the first thing that causes anger is when things do not go our way. That's number one. And when we are not being heard, in other words, where we cannot express ourselves for anyone to really listen or hear. Now, the clinical psychology says anger comes from disappointment, frustration, judgment, rejection, and fear. I think the first two that I mentioned is more prevalent. And then, when that happens, we get angry. Now, anger has two possibilities. We can get angry. Three, we can show anger. For example, you show anger to your children, but you're not really angry. It becomes a way of controlling. You show the anger, but it has no consequence. As a matter of fact, inside you're smiling. Well, that's just a game of anger. We're not talking about that. We're talking about when you are beginning to feel angry. And at that time you say to yourself, I am getting angry. Getting. Which means that you can already begin to know that you are angry. Now, that means your thought forms begin to look like this. This is from Leadbeater's book, Thought Forms. And this is how you can tell. And look at the sharp arrow that is coming down on us. With other words, it's coming down. The anger is coming down into our mind. So it's really showing what it's about to do. So while you say to yourself, I am getting angry, we still have control over the anger. And we might express anger, but we still have control. Then, if we are expressing the anger, what happens? Because it's such a sharp arrow that goes into our mind, and it's such a sharp energy that goes into the mind, it easily explodes, and this is what it would look like when it explodes in the mind. And this is when we say, I am angry. This is where you have no control. Your mind has exploded. It is as if that arrow has dynamite at the end and begins to explode, and you have no control here. Absolutely no control. And this is the anger that's the worst and very destructive, extremely destructive. This is where you can do things that you will regret in the future. This is where you can do things that you would normally never do. This is where you can hurt others, you can hurt objects, and you are anger. It is not, I am getting angry, you are anger. Your whole body becomes anger. Your whole body is affected. And we're going to look at how anger affects the physical body. So, let's start working with anger. Anger is a form of stress. And know that this form of stress, it starts with stress and then it becomes anger. This form of stress is very detrimental to our physical and emotional and mental body. And you saw what it does to the mental body. It can be very destructive. And according to one of the Ayurvedic physicians that I met many, many years ago, he says when you come into that kind of anger, where your whole physical body is involved and you have no control, it takes 72 hours for the body to come back to its original source. In other words, that's how much it affects the body. 72 hours. Okay? Now, other people have found that when a person is in explosive anger, that you cannot talk to them because they cannot hear you, and that you cannot make any reasoning with them. There is nothing you can do because their mind has been taken over by anger. It takes a minimum of 20 minutes after they have stop the explosion for their mind to get to the point where they can listen or they can be thinking. So these are all very important things to understand when you come into an explosive anger. And if it weakens your immune system for 72 hours, that means you can be angry again within those 72 hours because you don't have much control anymore. And so there goes a process of constantly being angry. And then when constantly being angry, and you feel that anger within you, then you try to release it, and that's when the alcohol or drugs come in trying to bring yourself back down to a normal state, which then again, there is this catch-22, then your immune system is lowered, and therefore you can be angrier, faster, and more explosive and violent. And anger and violence, because once you are in this explosive, and I want you to look at this, this is an explosive anger. Mind has no control. It is an explosion inside the brain where nothing can have an effect on it. And you need to release it. And to release it, we can do two things. If you are aware that you are getting angry, and before the explosion, we need to release it. And that is only by understanding anger, and that's why I'm talking to you about it. But let's look at what is the process. And we'll talk about some ways of utilizing resources that we have. Okay, so anger, and that's when we are getting angry, and we see this becoming, it starts gently and then it becomes forcefully. When we are getting anger, it activates the amygdala. And you're not even aware of it. I remember one day I'm sitting in front of Mataji, and she says to me, "You're getting angry." She could probably see thought forms. I can't, so that's good. And she says, "You're getting angry." I said, "No, I'm not getting angry. I didn't feel any anger." She says, "But I know you're getting angry." And before I knew it, there was anger rising inside of me. She says, "See, I told you were getting angry." Yes, you don't even know at the beginning. You might have a disappointment. You might have a frustration. You might feel that you're not being heard. You might feel that things aren't going your way. And you don't even realize that the amygdala is being activated by a first spark of anger. Once it is activated, it signals the hypothalamus and the pituitary gland. And then the pituitary activates the adrenals. And there comes the stress hormone. And the stress hormone is cortisol and adrenal. And let's look at what the elevated cortisol causes the neurons to accept too much calcium through their membrane. And that calcium overload can make the cells fire too frequently and die. So we're doing damage to the brain when we are in a state of this kind of anger. Or even in the state of, even while we are getting angry, in the state of stress, we're doing damage to the brain. Elevated cortisol causes loss of neurons in the prefrontal cortex. And that is why There can be no good judgment in the state of anger. When we are in the state of anger, we cannot make decent judgment. And we cannot, if we are in the state of any kind of tension, where cortisol is being released, we cannot make proper judgments, because it keeps us from, the release of that cortisol keeps us from making proper judgment. So this is not only anger, this is also stress. Okay? This is a high stress level as well. So we cannot make decisions and planning for the future. You can only do that in a steady mind. Another problem with cortisol, it kills neurons in the hippocampus and creates and disrupts the creation of new ones. Suppressed activity in the hippocampus weakens short-term memory and also prevents you from forming new memories properly. And so, in the state of stress, we cannot be thinking or memorizing or thinking about what we wanted to say. It comes out totally different. So in the anger, you might wish to say something, but your memory is cut off. When we start thinking about all of these things that are happening to us physiologically when we get angry, we have to really be concerned about not getting into that kind of anger. It is most important. Anger has never accomplished anything unless you use anger to get yourself a little bit of energy. And as my guru, Ma Yogashakti, she said, when I am getting angry, I create a new ashram. Anger brings energy. That is absolutely correct. But if you use it to bring energy because you may be depressed or you may be lazy, then you are also affecting your brain. And so it's not the healthy way, but it can be used for that. But then you have to be able to stop it and understand, because this kind of anger, where it has that sharp arrow, which is about to explode, but you can still stop it. You are still in the process of getting angry. And even in that process of being angry, and even in that process of being in tremendous distress, you have problem with it immediately affects your cardiovascular system, your immune system, your digestive systems, and it starts giving you headaches, migraines, etc. And of course, tension. We know about tension, muscle tension, and so forth. We know about that. And if you have a continuous problem with anger, then these medical conditions, their stress hormone conditions, become chronic. So we definitely wish to change stress and anger. But I want to talk more about anger than stress. So, how can we release the stress? How can we get out of being angry? Well, when you feel I am getting angry and you are aware of it, awareness is number one. And you become more aware once you start understanding what it will do to your brain. Especially, we want control over our brain. We don't want a hormone to take control. We don't want cortisol to take control over our brain. So, this fight and flight, we don't want to take control, except if you are in a situation where you need that kind of control when your life is being threatened. Then your mind will not have time to do anything. Your whole body will go into, and that is the good part. That is the wonderful part, where the adrenals will give you enough energy and enough in the physical body energy to overcome a situation that might be life-threatening. It is at that time you will find a mother will be able to lift a car to get her child under it. This is how strong this energy can be. Where you have superpowers. This is what happens when people are in distress, when people are in a life and death situation or something like that, where the mother has to take care or a father has to save his child. Because the body takes over. You will not be thinking. You will not go to the car and think that I can't lift it. You will not jump into the lake and know that you can't swim. You will just do it to save another human being. Your mind is not there. It is just becomes part of the physical body. But that's what anger will do. It will become part of the physical body where you have no control of what the mind is doing. And you, in order to release that anger, you will have to explode. And the explosion will mean that you will either explode into material things or even possibly another human being or animal. It's okay if you hit a wall, but you don't know that you will. Whoever is around, whatever is around, you might be able to hit. How could you possibly not then now understanding this, that your mind cannot be there, understanding this, that you cannot fight when you start getting to the point where you see yourself, I am getting angry. Because once you say, I am getting angry, you can change. You can stop it. The first thing you need to do when you do that is to take a deep breath in. Take a deep breath in and hold it. And exhale slowly. Take another deep breath in, hold it, and exhale slowly. And that you won't be able to do so easily. But that's the only way to begin with when you are in a state of anger that's about to explode. And when it explodes, it kills cells. It kills your reasoning. It kills your mind. Your mind explodes. And this is why I like the fact that I can give you a visual, because this is, whoever can see your mental body, which is Leadbeater and Annie Besant, have written this book, and you can find it on Amazon. You can find it on the website. It's in PDF already. This is what happens. Look at it. You have no control. So, take a deep breath in. Take a deep breath in. Know that taking any substance to control your anger will only increase the possibility of anger expressing itself. So, any drugs or alcohol will not help. As a matter of fact, just the opposite. Taking sattvic food will help. Drinking water will help. Having a glass of water while you're getting angry and deep breathing will help. going and maybe getting a snack will help. But most importantly, if you find yourself angry, immediately try to create activity. First, you have to get your brain back. Until you get your brain back, it will have to be a deep breath, or maybe a glass of water. Both of them will get your brain back. Once your brain is back, you say, I have to do physical activity to get rid of this anger before it becomes explosive. Because it is in the process of becoming explosive. And physical activity, run away from anger. Run away from anger. Start jogging. Start running. Do sun salutes 24 times. Whichever way. If you can't run outside, start your sun salutes and do them fast, very fast. Get the physical activity going, because that will take the energy. Remember, anger is energy and you have to release it. It has to be released. And before it becomes explosive, release it physically. It cannot be done mentally, because your mind is not capable at that point. Release it physically. And if you are in a situation where, for example, anger is building, and before you want to blow up to your boss, you have to excuse yourself. But usually, if it's a boss, we usually have pretty good control. We know that we're getting angry, and we talk to ourselves that we shouldn't get angry. Isn't that amazing? We have control. In that kind of situation, all of a sudden we have control. But when we come home and we know people are going to love us no matter what, and that I can express my anger and I will not have huge consequences, is when we let go of that ability to take control. Because it takes a great deal of energy to control this energy. Do you see it? And so this is why usually anger is released around people that you love and care for. And then you say to yourself, why did I do that? And anger is within you. It is not from an outside source. It is a frustration within you. It is something within you. And maybe an outside source could trigger that. But it has nothing to do with any outside force that you become angry. Nothing. The anger resides within you. It cannot be, it is not something that someone can give you. No one can give you anger. It comes from your own view of looking, own way of looking at situations. You have that choice of looking at situations in which angle you look at them. Life is difficult. We can look at it in one direction, and that is our mind, nobody else's mind. It's our mind that we have control over. We can look at it in a stressful way, or we can look at it, okay, I have to work with this. There are two ways of looking at it, and we make the choice. And remember, you make the choice. It is up to you as an individual. You say, but I'm always angry. I get this anger. My parents were angry. Everybody was angry. Yes, you have developed a habit of anger. And any habit we have developed, we can change. And only we can change. Nobody else. So let's look at, if you really wish to look at the anger, we have to start looking at why am I looking at life in a stressful manner? because it's stressful. You say to me, well, yes, life is stressful, but do I have to tap into that completely? What can I do about it? How can I relate to this life less stressful? These are the questions you need to ask. Stress is going to be here. If you have anger, like all addictions, you must ask your higher self, your soul self, to assist you in removing that habit, like all other habits. Our mind, and be aware of this, our mind prefers that you are angry, because the mind is run by the ego. And if you have control over the mind, the ego will not be number one. The ego will be your faithful servant. But at this particular time, the ego is not your faithful servant, so then you cannot rely upon your mind to change habits or other things. You have to rely on your soul. And by relying on the soul, it means I have to ask. It's called prayer. I have to understand that I, as an individual, cannot make the change I need to make. I, as an individual, need help from my soul self. I need God's help, whichever God you believe in. I cannot do this by myself. And in AA, that's exactly what we're understanding. And yet when we have anger, we don't think that has anything to do with us. But yes, it does. It is a habit. Habits cannot be changed. It's a force. And the majority of the times that we are angry is because we wish to change our depression or inability to do something. We want to get some energy going, and anger is a good way of energy to get going, but then it becomes explosive. With other words, you're dealing with fire here, and fire can cook a beautiful meal, or it can destroy the entire kitchen. So until you can use that fire constructively, I would highly recommend that you ask for assistance in being able to use this fire constructively to create new things. With a little bit of anger, you can get things done. With a little bit of anger or righteous anger, you can change the world. These are all wonderful tools that we have, but they're explosion. They're very explosive. So you have to have control over the anger, which most of us do not, until we work with anger and see what it does, how it works, and what destructiveness it can lead to, that we can begin to use anger in a positive manner. And anger in a positive manner is a wonderful tool. It's a great tool to motivate yourself into doing something that you've been wanting to do. But you've got to have control. So when you say, I'm going to put fire under your toes, that is another way of expression. That, if you have enough, okay, I got to do this, you get angry with yourself, I got to do this, I'm going to put fire under my toes. It's a little bit of anger there. It's a little bit of that energy that's coming up, the anger. Why haven't I done this? I got to put fire under the toes. That is positive anger. And that will not affect your brain, but it will get the cortisol going to get you moving, but then it will flatten it back out. It will not be destructive. So controlling your anger is a wonderful tool to use. So anger is not always negative, but most of the time we find that it is a negative process. It is not. It can be utilized. But you see the damage it will do to the brain for people that have constant anger, that can't get rid of the anger. It destroys their brain. It destroys their ability to have reasonable thoughts. It just doesn't go in. And remember, it takes 72 hours for you to come back to normal. And within those 72 hours, you will not have a thought that is a conscious or ability to make a reasonable decision. It will be clouded with incorrect information. Think about that. Think about the destruction this can do. Do you want that? Or do you want to work with your anger? When you say to yourself, I am getting angry, and become aware, because remember, the amygdala becomes angry before you even know it. The minute you know, and it's bringing it into the pituitary gland, the minute you know, fight. And say, I'm not going to get into this explosive. Let me do some exercises. Let me get this energy out of here. Let this energy flow into something constructive. And utilize it that way. Because you definitely do not wish to explode your brain. And I mean literally explode the brain. So with this, I will leave you today, and know that you can utilize anger for the good, and you can destroy yourself with it as well. God bless you. Hari Om Tat Sat. Om. Om. Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Om. Remember, prayer is your most powerful tool that you have in all of life difficulties. God bless you.